Hello, my name is David Oles, and welcome to Mississippi Happenings. I'm your co-host, and joining me is my co-host and friend, Jim Newman. Jim, talk to me. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine, and I'm
How's
still
Pete?
trying to research your family because you told me your family created the Oldsmobile automobile.
Well, as a matter of fact, I know that you are familiar with REO Speedwagon. I know that music is a little bit after your time, but as a matter of fact, REO's Ransom EOs, the inventor of the Oldsmobile, is a distant uncle. So there. What do you think about that, big boy?
Well, I'll have to research it.
Okay, well, good.
But I believe you.
Okay, well, good. You should. Isn't
it great that your name's not Pontiac?
Well, I am upset that they kept the Buick and got rid of the Oldsmobile, but that's a whole different thing. But as you know, each week we talk about kitchen table issues, and sometimes we have a tendency to forget that what happens at the federal level affects here, and what happens at the federal level affects our kitchen table. And we've got somebody with us today that's going to talk about HR1, Trump's big, beautiful bill. And I want to say hello and introduce you guys to Kathleen O'Beirne. Kathleen, good to have you with us.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here. And just to be clear, there is not a relationship between your family and REO Speedwagon?
REO Speedwagon got their name from REOs.
Oh,
because
okay.
his first car was called the Speedwagon.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now that's a bunch of useless information that we all can forget about. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Kathleen. Kathleen is a Mississippi native. She's a former lawyer.
She still is a lawyer.
Still am a lawyer. I do not practice.
There you go. Thank you, Jim, for the interruption.
Well, I didn't. I don't want you to have her show up after you.
Oh, okay. All righty. Sounds good. She received her BA in political science from Davidson College with a minor in Spanish, and she got her law degree from the University of Mississippi School of Law. She also served her junior year in Spain and also in Chile. Prior to working as a commercial litigator for 15 years, she worked in the nonprofit sector with immigrant women in North Carolina and in community development in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. She's also spent several years in various board positions with the with the Women's Foundation of Mississippi. These days, she spends most of her free time as an activist and organizer, and she is committed to moving Mississippi forward because, and this is her words, it's the only way she knows how to maintain her sanity. So, Kathleen, thank you so much. And you're doing what a lot of people are doing and trying to keep our sanity.
That's right. We got to do something.
Amen. And it's all about grassroots. Jim and I have talked to Northeast Mississippi Indivisibles, Mary Jane and Jamie. We've talked to them, and we've talked to several grassroots area, and that's really where it's happening. So let's jump right into this and we all know that Trump has such a command for the English language. and his big, beautiful bill, which is HR1. It was passed. So, Kathleen, how is this big, beautiful bill? What's that going to do to all of us in Mississippi?
That's a great question, David. And as y'all know, this bill, I think, is over 900 pages, and it covers so much different territory, so many different issues, different components of our federal government. And I think we could talk about it for days and days. But the specific issue, let me say this. So there are a few major things. One is tax policy. Changes to federal taxes that Mississippi families will owe is one thing that we should discuss. There also were pretty major cuts to Medicaid, which will have a big impact on healthcare in Mississippi. There's a huge provision and allocation of funding for immigration enforcement, I think to the tune of about $175 billion, which will, have a big impact, not just on our immigrant communities, but upon the industries that depend on those, on labor from immigrants in Mississippi. So those are kind of the three big areas that are top of mind for me. And so, but what I wanted to talk to y'all about today really is the tax policies and how that is going to affect Mississippi families, and then about the combined effect of both tax policies under the big beautiful bill and also tariff policies, which our Mississippi GOP congressional delegation has, ceded all of its authority over to the president. So that's where I'd like to start, if that's fair for y'all.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay. So what I've been digging into is data from the Congressional Budget Office, which of course is a nonpartisan branch of office within the legislative branch of our federal government, and they dig in and do the research and figure out what are going to be kind of the micro and macroeconomic impacts of laws that Congress passes. And so they use data from the Census Bureau, the American Community Survey through the census, and I'm sure all number of other information to determine the combined effect of all facets of the big beautiful bill on American households by income. And so what they do is they take, this gets a little bit wonky, but y'all bear with me for a little bit. So they basically look at a spread of American household income from lowest all the way to the highest. And then they divide those groups into deciles. So for example, the lowest decile of American households makes about $23,000 a year. And then say the 1, 2, 3, 4, let's look at the fifth decile of household income in America is about $85,000 a year. And then the highest decile is about $692,000 a year. And so, so with that information, they then look at, different components of the big beautiful bill, work their magic. I mean, these are like nerd PhD number crunchers. This is what they do. This is what they've always done. And so they look at the net effect in dollars of changes to federal taxes and cash transfers and then also federal and state in-kind transfers, and I can go into kind of what that is, by decile. So to me, the first place I want to look to figure out the effect on Mississippi households is I want to look at the median Mississippi household income. So that is to say, that's the number that half of Mississippi households make more than that amount, and half of Mississippi households make less than that amount. And it's different. Median is different than average. I'm sure you guys know this, but just in case some of your listeners don't quite understand, median is different than average because average would be skewed by like the couple of billionaires that live in Mississippi, for example. So looking at median kind of leaves out the furthest, the very richest and the very poorest. Okay, so median household income is about $56,000 for Mississippi. So if you go and look at the congressional, and that's census data. So if you go and look at the Congressional Budget Office, it tells you that these people are going to be negatively impacted by the Big Beautiful Bill to the tune of negative $156 a year.
Okay.
So
which group is that?
That is the median income household in Mississippi. So the very middlest of the middle income. Literally, they are like the definition of middle income in Mississippi. They make $56,000 a year. The net effect of the Big Beautiful Bill on their pocketbook is negative $156. And so what that includes is tax policy changes, reductions in ACA premium subsidies. I'm sure y'all have heard that, like, not only are people going to be kicked off of Medicaid, but people who aren't on Medicaid but get their health insurance through the ACA marketplace, their premiums are going to go way up, some of them, because of cuts to the premium subsidies in the Big Beautiful Bill. And then what are some of the things Wicker has said? Let's see. They'll stimulate the economy and benefit job creators across the country. The reconciliation bill delivers the largest tax cut for the middle class in American history. That's just not true. I mean, if you're going to talk about tax cuts for the middle class, like, I hope you're talking about, the middle class of your own constituents. But, yeah, I don't know.
No, I think his middle class.
And the other thing is, I'm sure y'all have heard a lot of talk about how this bill is, basically the largest wealth transfer from poor Americans to wealthy Americans. Well, being one of the poorest states in the nation, if not the poorest, what that means is the detrimental impact of this bill is bigger for a poor state like ours than it is for any other state. If you are making life harder on more poor Americans and giving tax cuts to really wealthy Americans, then the impact is going to be far worse in a poor state like ours, right?
Well, absolutely. The government transfer payments, whether it be for SNAP or Medicaid or any of the other social programs, they're all been cut.
Yeah, you want to hear those numbers? They're not
nice.
No, and I don't have in front of me specific numbers about like how much Medicaid funding is going to be cut in Mississippi. That's something I need to dig into. But for
it's going to be something like 230,000 people are going to lose their Medicaid. However that transfers into money, I don't know, but I'm more concerned about people and their health and their lives.
Yeah, so folks, that first decile that we talked about, so the lowest income people, making $25,000 and less. And in Mississippi, it looks like there are about 350,000 of those people. The net effect of this bill for them, so these are folks who are already only making $25,000. The net effect is negative $1,357.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Those who can afford it the least.
That's right. And then the folks, the top decile of American income earners, households, those folks make on average $692,000 a year, and they're going to get a boost of $13,000.
Wow. Talk about just the opposite these two affect. We had a conversation with Kyra Roby, who's a political analyst, and we still want to stay on the big, beautiful bill, but she was talking about the elimination of the state income tax. And, she was talking about the same group that you were talking about. They will save $4, a year. 1, 2, 3, 4. But, you go back up to the wealthy, like you talked about, the 600,000, they're going to save $40,000 in state income tax.
I mean, the inequality is sickening.
Yes.
But one of the messages I'm trying to get people to understand is that, yes, the inequality is sickening, but some people just don't care about inequality. It doesn't hurt their feelings. They don't care. They don't think about it. But when you think about, what did I say, 250,000 Mississippians, and they've lost $1,300 apiece. So do the math and think about what that is going to do to our local economies in the state. Because I promise you, people making with such a low income, that $1,300 would be spent in their communities. It would be spent at their grocery stores, at Walmart, at the Totem, at the gas station, any number of places, and they're not going to have that money anymore. And so what does that do to small businesses, for example? And then you play that out through these other deciles of income. It's going to have a really horrible impact, not just on families who are going to have a hard time affording the things that they need to get by, but it's going to have a terrible impact on businesses that supply those goods and services that these families would be paying for, but now they can't afford anymore.
Well, if you're making $24,000 a year and you've got a child and you are a single mother, it's going to cost you $12,000 for child care during the day, which leaves you $12,000. And then you lose $1,000 of that, which leaves you with $11,000. I don't know many families that can live on $11,000. I mean, between groceries and keeping an automobile up and doctors, and it's just physically impossible.
Absolutely.
And it's no wonder that we have homeless and we have people that cannot afford health care and end up in the emergency rooms, and hospitals are going broke. It's just a vicious, vicious cycle. And our governor, frankly, doesn't give a damn.
No. I mean, my theory is, I don't know. I don't know any logical reason to be against Medicaid expansion. Um, so put aside how you feel about poor people having health care, because what I've realized over the last couple years is there are a lot of people who don't care. They don't care if poor people are able to go see a doctor or go to the hospital. They just don't care. And that's a really sad conclusion to reach, but I don't know what other conclusion to come to. So even if you don't care about poor people having health care, surely if you are a Mississippian, and you have your own private health insurance, or you have Medicare or coverage through the ACA, surely you care about there being a doctor to treat you or your loved one when you need it. And surely you care about, that hospital down the street or 20 miles away, whatever hospital you depend on, being open when you need it. Surely you care about, if your loved one shows up in the emergency room, and they're told, I'm sorry, we don't have a bed available, which just means it's not that we don't have a bed, it's that we don't have the staff to treat your loved one.
Right.
Surely you care, if your own health care costs and premiums go up. Surely you care if you need to see a neurologist and you can get in to see a neurologist in 3 months as opposed to having to wait a year. So, I mean, the point is that even if you literally do not want poor people to have health care, there still is so much argument for all of the rest of us in favor of expanding Medicaid. Because if those people don't have health care and they don't have a way to pay for the care that they are entitled to get in our hospitals, that the effects of that are going to reach us as well. It's going to be terrible for that person who doesn't have health insurance, but it's going to be terrible for all of the rest of us too. And I think so many people just don't understand that. I think people, especially in Mississippi, have this misconception that Medicaid is just another government handout of cash to welfare queens, which couldn't be further from the truth. It is literally health insurance. Nobody,
Yes.
no Medicaid recipient gets a cash handout that is called Medicaid. Literally, it is payment to the providers for providing care to the insured. And so it's what do you think? So a doctor, should or shouldn't get paid depending on how wealthy his or her patient is? That's ridiculous.
You hit one of the main points, is that people don't realize, people that have health insurance, that have Medicare, our costs go up. And that's where, the focus, we need to let people know that, yes, you're paying for it and your costs are going up when, with Mississippi would simply, accept, the federal funds to expand the Medicaid. It would help everybody. But I think like you said, a lot of people look at it as a handout. And that's sad, because one of the things, you have to have a healthy workforce. And right now, I don't think Mississippi has a very healthy workforce because of not accepting Medicaid funds.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be clear, there still is an opportunity to expand Medicaid in Mississippi. So in spite of the cuts to Medicaid that are part of the big beautiful bill, our state legislature still could expand Medicaid and help offset some of the negative impacts of the federal Medicaid cuts in Mississippi. That would make a big difference.
Yes.
Well, we have the highest rate of baby deaths before 1 year of age at 10 per 1,000 of any state in the union. And that's got to be attributed to lack of prenatal health care and postnatal health care.
Right. And there's no way for those stats to improve by cutting access to care and cutting funding.
No, it's not. And if you live in the Delta, in certain parts of the Delta, if you have a heart attack, all the doctors and everybody say that the first hour is so critical. Well, there are parts in the Delta that first hour, you can't get to a hospital or to a critical care facility.
That's right.
Within an hour.
That's exactly right. Another one of the really stupid things about this bill is, so we haven't even discussed the fact that these cuts to Medicaid, cuts to SNAP are intended to offset huge tax breaks for the really wealthy. So I can't remember what the final number is. Maybe it's like $3 trillion that's being added to the federal debt because of these huge tax cuts to the super wealthy, to the tune of $13,000 for a family that makes $700,000 a year. So that adds up. And so they're trying to offset that amount by reducing spending on things like Medicaid and SNAP, which is, again, like if that inequality doesn't just blow your mind, I don't know what will. But so they have these cuts to Medicaid, and the way they're cutting Medicaid expenses is by making the hoops that folks have to jump through to get Medicaid more cumbersome. So they're not changing like the substantive requirements, to my understanding. They're just making you have to jump through more hoops to prove that you meet those requirements. And so if you miss jumping through a hoop, you lose your coverage. So that's how they're kicking you off. And so the amount of Medicaid cuts that they're anticipating, I'm using real round numbers right now. I want to say it's around $150 billion. To help offset that, what the Republicans who crafted this bill decided to do was to provide $50 billion in relief to rural hospitals. So it's like, we're going to take all this money away from you rural hospitals because we're not going to pay for your Medicaid patients anymore. We're not going to pay you to treat your Medicaid patients. So the patients won't have coverage. They're not going to get care. They're not going to come in. But we'll just give you $50 billion. That is the dumbest thing. Like, why would you give them $50 billion when you could use the $50 billion to provide Medicaid coverage? I mean, that's bananas. You want to talk about like a really crummy return on your investment. Right?
Yes.
Like, where are the adults in the room? That's what I keep asking. It's like, where are the adults in the room? Who comes up with this garbage? And on what planet did they live that, like, it makes sense to them?
Well, you need to change your saying. Where are the adults in Washington?
Yeah.
Because the adults in the room are out here.
Yeah.
We're the recipients of their stupidity.
Yeah. Well, and, on that note, like, the adults in the room are the constituents. They are the grassroots folks who are figuring things out, who are realizing we ain't that stupid. And we're not going to be deceived anymore.
I've come to the point that we're not constituents anymore. We're victims.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just irritates the hell out of me that we're coming up on shutting down the government, and a lot of people are going to get laid off, and some people are going to be required to work even though they don't get paid. And the 430 some legislators and 100 senators will continue to receive their health care and their paychecks, while everybody else in the government that gets laid off and furloughed is going to suffer tremendously.
That's right. That's right.
What about, let me ask you about education. If they're successful doing away the Department of Education, and I think the number was $800 billion that they were cutting out of education. What is that going to do to Mississippi? Since it, as always, I've always understood that we get roughly $2 back for every tax dollar we send to Washington.
Yeah, it's going to be devastating. There's no question about it. And I don't have. I'm trying to think, where do I have that information? I'm gonna have to go find it. But does federal funding make up like a third of our spending on education in the state? I can't remember the number,
right.
Yeah,
but it is significant. And if that funding goes away, it's going to have a devastating effect on so many families. I mean, I had a friend who early on in this administration lost his job as a counselor at a local public school. And as a parent, I got to thinking about, I mean, obviously it's terrible for him that he lost his job, but I got to thinking about the families who depend on the services that he provides to their children, and what that disruption looks like for them. I mean, if you've ever had a child who needs special like behavioral therapy or interventions in school for like dyslexia or ADHD, or has an an individual education plan, IEP, any of that, it's really hard as a parent, first to figure out what's going on with your child, and then to figure out how to get your child the most effective services to deal with whatever that issue is. And I think about a counselor in the school. I mean, how huge is that? Let's think about if you're a two working parent family, your kids are in public school, you've got a kid who's got some behavioral struggles, let's say, and you need that child to have therapy. So you've got to have a therapist nearby, which in some rural communities is probably difficult to come by. You need, if there is a therapist, you need that therapist to accept whatever insurance you have, assuming you have insurance. You have to figure out how to get your child to that therapist probably once a week. There are all these steps that you have to go through to make sure that your child is getting the best care that you can get for him or her. And so how lucky were these families in public schools here, whose children were able to go see my friend for free during the school day. He's right there. He knows the children. He knows their environment. He knows their teachers. Nobody has to leave work to go pick up the kid from school to get her to therapy and then get her back to school and then get back to work. And all of a sudden, all of that is ripped out from under those families. For what? But that's what the Trump administration is doing in schools all over the country, in, industries all over the country. Again, for what? What about this is making things better for us Americans?
I'm looking at an article from Mississippi Today, and it's from July the 24th, and it talks about some of the things that the Big Beautiful Bill, and it talks about federal money for workforce training will be eliminated, but also the main thing is free school meals will be affected. It says it would create more work requirements for parents to qualify for the SNAP program, which may decrease the number of students available for the free meal program. And of course, it talks about a domino effect, and then there's a lot of paperwork to fill out, and it just makes it harder. And we do in Mississippi, there's a food insecurity issue. And a lot of the kids, they do go to school hungry.
Yeah, I mean, look, David, Jim, I was a free lunch kid at Oxford Public Schools in 1985, 6, 7, 87, 88. Is that right? I'm off a year. 86, 87, 87, 88, 88, 89. I promise you, the return on the federal government's investment in my family for those 3 years has been repaid, I don't know, 1,000-fold. I mean, it's just so short-sighted to me to think that somehow it'll be better for us to not feed these children during the school day than it would be to feed them in the long run. Right? But I mean, here's what I've come to. Here's what I've come to about particularly our GOP leadership in the state of Mississippi, is that for some reason their disdain for poor people and people of color is stronger than their love for Mississippi.
Excellent point.
Because how else can you explain it?
What do you anticipate as far as them getting a budget before the end of the month?
I don't know. But I will say I think there is more support for shutting down the government now than there was, when was that? Back in March? Because of the way the federal government is being weaponized against the American people. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot more people now who say, sure, shutting down the government is going to hurt. It's going to hurt those folks who are going to lose their jobs, or those folks who have to keep working but don't get their full paycheck. But maybe right now the alternative is far worse than that.
It almost seems to me, and I hate to say this because I don't want it to happen, but I'm willing to bet that if they shut down the government and included no more Social Security checks, I can almost guarantee that a lot of Republicans are not going to be reelected next year, because older people will not take kindly to that, and they will get out and they will go vote.
Yeah,
and
I
they
think
won't.
absolutely so. And then also, Jim, if you think about, the older people, and I confess, I don't know if there's a government shutdown. Is that true that Social Security checks won't be issued?
No, they will continue to be issued. What I'm
Okay.
saying is if they cease issuing, they will have hell to pay next year.
Right. I mean, because if you think about it, like not only does that impact, I don't know how many millions of older adults, but if older adults aren't getting their Social Security anymore, then that has a trickle down impact on their children and grandchildren.
Yes,
Because who's going to be taking care of them?
precisely.
And I mean, I think, I hope and I think that there is going to be a reckoning in 2026. I mean, especially if you look at like, the other numbers I've looked at are the impact of tariff policies, which our Republican congressional delegation has wholeheartedly endorsed. If you combine the effects of the big beautiful bill and tariff policy on Mississippians, it's way worse than just the impact of the big beautiful bill. I mean, major, a major dent in Mississippians' pocketbooks.
Yes, there was
Or,
It,
and
somebody
and
had
effects on the farmers,
what's that?
and its effect on the farmers.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Tariffs effect on farmers, the loss of immigrant labor's effect on farmers, its effect on the manufacturing industry, construction, any number of industries in Mississippi. Folks are gonna really gonna be hurting.
Jim,
yeah.
you had something?
You mentioned the farmers, and I heard an interview the other day that in Mississippi, if the farmers don't get help, the family farms are going to be approaching 50 to 75% bankruptcy, which will mean that the larger corporate farmers will take over and there'll be fewer people needed to work the farms. And the proof of that is that Caterpillar has already lost 300,000 in this last quarter, and they expect to lose that again. I don't know how we're going to get out of this without a real change in our legislation or legislators, and that's going to
Yeah, I mean
require.
the impacts are already devastating, and they're only going to get worse. I've got a friend who's a bank president down here, and he told me, he's got a lot of bank customers who are farmers, and they've been calling him since March and saying like, I don't know what we're going to do, and these are 5th, 6th, 7th generation farmers. And I mean, that is a segment of the population that is, 90% Republican? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
and they are being squeezed. And again, it's for nothing. Like it would be one thing if we were getting something out of this. I read somewhere or heard a podcast, maybe, I don't know, talking about, that authoritarian regimes if they succeed because the people believe that there's gonna be a benefit that offsets the detriment. So the detriment is like we're losing our freedoms, we're our First Amendment rights, our due process rights, our elections maybe go away. There's redistricting and that sort of thing, but we benefit in some way. So our you know, we're more prosperous, or we're safer, or we have better health care, or we have, better something. And that is absolutely not what is happening in our country. We are losing all of our freedoms. We are losing our democracy. And we are also losing, our asses financially.
Yes.
Because of these policies. And like I keep saying, Mississippians ain't that stupid. Like, we are waking up and paying attention, and we're not going to stand for it. I mean, look, I think the pitchforks are coming in 2026, and they should. People
yes.
should be mad as hell.
Yes. I love that Mississippians ain't that stupid.
We're not.
Tell us about Kat O'Shea. Tell us about her.
That's my alter ego on social media. I have an Instagram account and a Facebook account, and who knows if it's helpful or not, but I give myself a little bit of anonymity with a alter ego. Because I have a big mouth and I'm not very good at biting my tongue, and I don't want everybody else to go down with me for that.
I feel your pain.
I want, one of the things that I want to do most is to help Mississippians understand how different policies affect us, because we certainly aren't getting that information from our elected officials. I mean, the information they are giving us is garbage. It's not true. And so one of the ways to do that, to help educate people, is on social media, which is really bizarre. I mean, like, we're used to writing letters to the editor, and I don't know how else you do that, but these days a lot of people are getting their information on social media, and there is so much garbage out there that I kind of feel like I can't be quiet anymore. And I get curious about these issues. I mean, with the big beautiful bill, I'm like, there's no way Cindy Hyde-Smith is telling the truth when she says, middle income Americans are going to get back $1,500 a year. That's not true. And so I go digging into it, and sure enough, it ain't true. And it makes me mad. I mean, I have one child who's very, very stubborn, and if he sees anything that he perceives as remotely unfair, particularly if it's unfair to him, he just throws a fit, and I wonder where he gets it from. Like, and I tell you when it started, it was back during COVID, and where we used to go to church, the priest long story short, the priest made a comment on Facebook. It was a post on Facebook about how they were, doing the best they could and as much as they could to help make sure that our teachers were taken care of during COVID. And I knew for a fact, because I was on the PA board, that wasn't true. And we had a lot of elderly teachers who we just adored, and we were worried for their health during COVID. And he put that on Facebook, and I was like, oh, hell no. And I commented on his post. I mean, it just made me so mad to see, like, somebody in a position of authority speaking out to his followers about something, and it's not true. And he later said to me, like, oh, you shouldn't have put that in the comments on my Facebook post. I said, no, Father. You shouldn't have made that Facebook post that was not true. And kind of
Absolutely.
ever
Yeah.
since then, I just I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and sit back and be quiet and watch people be lied to.
We don't hold our authority figures or our leaders. We don't hold them accountable,
That's right.
and we let them get away with crap.
That's right. I don't know if you saw. I had a video rant several weeks ago. It was after after Wicker made those public comments on video down at the Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce event. He said did y'all see this video? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know it.
Yeah, he was asked if he receives the messages when constituents call and email his office, and he said two things that were appalling, and all the rest
Yes.
of it was like mumbo jumbo. I have no idea. It was like words weren't even coming out of his mouth. It was just grunting. But he said, surely people have better things to do, and he said people need to get a life.
Yes.
And what struck me was that is exactly our problem, is that for, I don't know, decades now, at least the last, I'd say 15 years, people are going on about their lives without paying attention to what's going on in government and politics. And people are finding better things to do. And that's how we got into this mess, is because we're having better things to do. We're getting a life, and we're just going on about our day and our lives and assuming that our elected officials are doing right by us. And they're not.
Yep.
It doesn't take much to tell that they're not.
Right.
When Wicker says Mississippians ought to get a life, send the money and maybe some of them will be able to get a life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, stop making our lives harder.
Yes.
That's what government is doing. It is our federal government and our state government too, is making life harder for the vast majority of Mississippians. And it's time to stop.
Well, Kathleen, this has been so much fun. We admire your passion. We admire your candid comments, and that's quite all right with us. We like that. So, thank you for being with us, Jim.
I want to have Kathleen back.
Yes, we do. And
well, I've sure enjoyed it. I'll be glad to come back anytime.
We can pick another subject and have a go at it and tear into them.
That's it.
Give me a topic. I'll dive into it.
Love it. It's all about the deep dive, and you're right. We have got to communicate the what's going on and the real news and the real facts, and and this is what we found. This is where we found it. And Cindy Smith is lying her off. So
yeah. And let me just say this, right? I know y'all are trying to wrap up, but not only do we have to educate people about what's really going on, but we have to, we as Mississippians have to speak up. We cannot sit idly by. We cannot sit in our what am I trying to say?
Recliner. I don't know.
Silo.
No, our echo chambers.
Thank you.
You and I can't. The three of us can't just sit here and talk amongst ourselves. Like, we have to share with other people what's really happening. We have to be in community with other people. And we have to do something. We've got to call our elected officials. We've got to write to them. We've got to show up to protest. October 18th is No King's Day 2.0. They're going to be protesting Gulfport at the federal courthouse in Jackson at the state capitol, and in Tupelo in front of Trent Kelly's office, I believe. So October 18th is a great time for people literally to show up with their bodies and do something.
Jim, let's talk about your favorite subject, Jim.
Oh, money? I love money.
Yeah. Yes,
I
you
love
do.
it when it comes in and we don't have to continue paying for this. But it's worth it. But yes,
Yes.
these broadcasts do cost. They're not terribly expensive, but they are somewhat expensive. And if you'd like to contribute to continue seeing topics of interest to Mississippians and what David calls kitchen table issues, we sure would appreciate it if you would consider making a donation one time or on a monthly basis, even if it's $5 or $10. Everything helps. And we've got some great people coming up. One of the ones I'm really looking forward to is with retired Admiral Jamie Barnett.
Yes.
And hopefully he will have a JAG officer, which is a justice, naval justice advocate, with him. And we're going to talk about blowing up boats in the Gulf of Mexico without any justification. And I think a retired admiral and a retired JAG officer might have some opinions about that. So that's one really great one that's coming up, and I can hardly wait to see it. But like I said, it all costs money. The good thing is it's not like the grocery store. Our costs have stayed the same. Trump says grocery bills are going down. Well, ours isn't going down, but it's not going up. So if you got a little change, send it our way. We'd appreciate it. If not, continue to listen in, get educated, and take some action. Don't sit on the log doing nothing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. And if you want to contribute, your Cash App is at Mississippi Happenings. PayPal is $Mississippi Happenings. And also you can check us out at mshappenings.org, and you can also contribute there. So we do appreciate it. We appreciate you listening. We do want you to subscribe. It is free. We do need more sponsors. And yes, we do need donations. So to keep us going like this, but we do appreciate it. Also, our email address is mshappenings1@gmail.com. That's mshappenings, the number 1@gmail.com. We do want to hear from you. We do want to talk about the things that you want to talk about, the things that you want to hear about. And this helps us get great interviews like we just had with Kathleen. So we do appreciate that. And in closing, may we never become indifferent to the suffering of others. Thanks. Y'all take care. Be safe.